What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In this video today, we're going to take a look at my zshell configuration. I'm going to show you my setup. I'm going to show you how to install everything so that it looks the same as on my system. And I'm going to talk about why I think that zshell is absolutely superior to bash in most cases. So let us get right into it. Alright, so let us get started right away. My goal for this video today is on the one hand to yap a little bit about why I think that zshell is superior to bash, at least when it comes to interactive usage. Bash is probably still superior when it comes to scripting, but when it comes to using your command line to navigate your operating system, to edit files, to run applications and so on, I think zshell, at least in the form that I have set it up on my system, is definitely superior to bash. This is something I want to talk about, and on the other hand, I also want to show you my configuration, and because many people have asked it in the comment section down below, I want to show you how to set it up step by step so that it looks exactly like on my system for you. And I'm going to do this here in a container so that we can do it really from scratch without any pre-existing configuration. So let's get started. I want to open up my command line here to show you what zshell looks like on my system. This is my command line. To be precise, I'm using Alacrity as a terminal emulator, and this is my shell. You can see I have the tux icon, so the Linux penguin. I have my username. I have an icon, which in this case now is a house for home. I have the path, which in this case is home, and I have this basic symbol for, my shell essentially. And what I can do now is I can navigate, for example, to desktop. You can see now the icon changes. You can see I have the path here. And I can also do stuff like navigate into a Git repository. For example, YouTube tutorials is a Git repository I have. And you can see now I get the icon here for GitHub. I get the branch main. I get also the information that one of the changes is not added or not committed. And also, when I open up, for example, an application, let's say I open up NeoVim to edit a file, I spend some time in here, then I close it. You can see that I get here on the right side this hourglass with 4 seconds telling me that this took 4 seconds to execute. This is also quite useful sometimes to see how long it takes to do something. But all in all, you can see that this is a pretty, in my opinion at least, good looking shell, and you can customize this, and this is, I think, one of the key points when it comes to zshell versus bash. You can add plugins. I don't have many plugins. I have exactly 2 plugins here. One of them is the syntax highlighting, so if I type just something here, you can see it's red because it is not a command, whereas if I type something like docker, it will say that this is a recognized command and it will make it green. Same goes for aliases, so you can see nv is an alias for nvim, which is the command. So nvi is red, nvim is green, nv is also green. This is all set up in my config. Another useful thing is if I go, for example, to my working directory, what I can do now is I can say ... to go up one directory without using cd. But what I can also do is I can go up multiple directories. So I can say ... to go up 2 directories, another ... to go up 3 directories. So this will get me into programming. Now let's go back to Neural 9 Python current. If I do this a bunch of times, now if I do it too often it doesn't work, but if I do it a lot of times I get into home. I can also, get to the root directory here like this. And what's also cool is I can just say cd, for example, b. And in bash, if it's not exactly clear what I'm talking about, it will not allow me to do auto-completion. Whereas here, if I press tab, I can switch back and forth between the directories. Another thing that I can do is, for example, we have here recovery. If I say cov, I don't have any C directory here. So if I say cov, I can auto-complete this to recovery. Very simple setup. I'm going to show you now how you can set this up from scratch. I think this is just a more pleasant experience overall. There's also some other stuff that you can do here or that is being done here for you behind the scenes. I don't cover everything here. Maybe one more thing. If I want to go to user, local, and binary, what I can do is I can say cd u low b, and I can press tab, and it's going to give me user local bin. So that's quite impressive as well. Now, let's do the same setup here from scratch. Now, you can do this on your system, on your actual system. If you want to do it from scratch, it's going to replace bash with zshell on your system. I'm going to do it here because I don't want to uninstall everything and then install it again. I'm going to do it in a Docker container. You don't have to play around with Docker at all. I'm just going to do it in a Docker container because I want to have an environment from scratch. For this, I pulled an Ubuntu image. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to say docker-id or itd and then run Ubuntu. This is just going to run the Ubuntu instance like this. Okay, docker run itd Ubuntu. This is going to open up the container or run the container. In this case, the container is called, so you can see it here, elated pike. So I'm gonna just say docker exec-it elated pike bash, and now I'm in my Docker container. So this is my Docker container. It only has bash. Now, since this is a very minimal container, I will have to install some tools here that you probably have on your system already. So I will have to do apt update first of all. I have to do then apt install curl and git and so on. Now, if for some reason you don't have these tools, you also need to install them with your package manager. So whatever system you're on, use your package manager to install curl, to install git, to install, in my case, vim, so that I can edit files. And then also, of course, zshell. So zsh, zsh. And of course, I need to say apt install. That is going to install the tools. I'm just going to say yes. And once we have that, this is probably now stuff you already have on your system. But once you install zshell, you can just run it and you can use it. But by default, it's not really going to look the way that My Zshell installation looks. So you will have to do some things to make it look the way my installation looks. Now let me just set up here the environment, actually 56. Let's wait for that to finish. And once we have that, we can start with the installation, or actually we already have zshell installed now. And we can run it by just saying zsh. So this is going to open up zshell, but you can see it doesn't really look in any way different than bash. It just doesn't have my username. It looks even less detailed. If I do cd, I will have the auto completion option, but it doesn't look very good. So also when I go into a directory, I cannot just use ... This doesn't work. Permission denied. So you can see this is not what we're looking for. So what I did on my system is I installed a specific version of zshell. I'm not sure if it's a version or a plugin. I think it's a version or a modified version, which is My Zshell. So My Zshell, you just go to the website here. You will find a link in the description down below. If not, let me know in the comments that I forgot to add it. But then you just click on install My Zshell, and all you have to do is you have to run this command here. So you copy it. Let's go into bash here. You copy it, you paste it. This is going to install My Zshell. I say yes, I want to replace the basic shell. And now you can see this looks different. So now I'm using, now I'm seeing the different setup here. Now I'm seeing the different style. And now I can also do stuff like go into bin and do ... to go back, or do ... in general to go back. Also, by the way, this goes for just typing the directory. I don't need to use cd. I can just type bin and it will go into the bin directory. Of course, this is problematic if it conflicts with the name of a binary or executable that's in the path. But in general, you can see now this is already much better. However, we cannot really customize it just like that. So we need to actually, or it's not customized yet, is what I want to say. So what we need to do is we need to edit the config file. Now, since I'm running this in a container now and I'm the root user, I have to go to the root directory. On your system, of course, what you want to do is you want to just open up your terminal and you want to navigate to your home directory. So you just want to type cd. This will get you into the home directory. And here you can open up the file called zshrc. So zshellrc, like bash rc, but zshellrc. And you're going to probably find a default config. Now, let's see what it looks like. In this case, again, as I said, this is going to be the root directory. And if I open up the zshellrc, let's maybe get this back onto the other screen. You can see that some of the stuff is already being set up here. So we do have already the My Zshell installation. We do have a theme selected, and we also have plugins. So the default plugin here is Git. We're going to see some Git icons, I guess, when we have a Git repository. But besides that, nothing is really set up for us. Now, I'm going to keep it simple for this video today. I do have my full setup on my GitHub repository, so you will be able to just, if you want to have exactly my config, let me just navigate here to github.com/neural9 on my second screen, and then let's go to the, you're not seeing this right now, I know, but let's go to the config files. There will be a link in the description down below where you can just copy paste all my config files if you want to have exactly the same setup as I have. So you can just go here to zshrc, and you can see all the different aliases I have. Now, some of them are not going to be applicable to you. So I have certain things like, for example, my prepared videos directory here as an alias. You will have to clean that up a little bit. But all in all, this is my config, and you can see how things are done here. You can use the alias command, you can export stuff, very similar to the bash rc. But what we're going to do first now is we're going to add a theme. Now, we can just add the theme, but one thing that we should do before is we should install a font that is compatible. Now, the font is not installed in zshell itself, it's installed for your system and for your terminal emulator. For example, right now I'm using Alacrity. If I go into my Alacrity config, you will see that I'm using the JetBrains Mono Nerd font. So this is the font that you're seeing here, and this font allows for icons. And this is important because if you want to install a certain theme, if you want to install the theme that I'm using here, which is called, what was it called? Power Level 10K. If you want to use that, you will have to have a nerd font or a compatible font. This is another link that you will find in the description down below. nerdfonts.com/font-downloads. Here you can choose different nerd fonts. In my case, I'm using JetBrains Mono Nerd font, this one. Download it and install it for your respective operating system. This, of course, depends on your system, how you have to install fonts. Just look it up. You get a zip file and you get some font files in there. So look up how to do that on your system. And once you have this, set it up to work with your terminal emulator, whatever that is, iTerm or Alacrity or whatever you're using, GNOME Terminal, and make sure you're using that font. Once you have that, what you want to do is you want to go to yet another link in the description, hopefully, which is this GitHub repository here, Power Level 10K. And all you want to do here is you want to scroll down to the install Power Level 10K link. You want to click here on My Zsh shell because there are different shells that you can use here. And then you want to clone the repository. So you want to copy this and you want to just paste it, run it. This is going to install the theme. And now you also have to select the theme. So you want to go into your zshell.rc. So .zshell.rc. And you want to replace this theme here by Power Level 10K / Power Level 10K. That should work. And now you want to do exec and then zshell. This is going to run now the Power Level 10K configuration wizard. And this already checks if you have the proper font. So it's going to ask you a couple of questions. Do you see a diamond here? Yes. Do you see a log here? Yes. Do you see an upwards arrow? Yes. What number is the arrow pointing to? In this case, a 1. Do all the icons fit in between the crosses properly? Yes, in my case, they do. So now it knows I have a proper font installed. And now I can choose some basic settings. I can say, for example, that I want to use Unicode. I don't want to have the time here in my command, so I'm just going to say no. I want to have everything in one line. I don't want to have 2 lines. I want to have it compact, not sparse. I want to have many icons, not few icons. And I want to have concise, not fluent. I also don't want to have the transient prompt, so no. And I want to have verbose prompt mode, and I want to apply the changes, so yes. That's it. Now I have a new setup. You can see I have the Ubuntu logo and everything. But of course, what I can do now is I can further customize this configuration. So I can open up my, if I run ls-la, you can see I have now this p10k.zsh or zsh file. So I can just open it up and say, edit this. And now I have a bunch of things here. Now we're not going to talk about this in too much detail because there's a lot of stuff that you can configure here. But the important thing is you can add elements here to the left prompt and to the right prompt elements. So what I'm going to do at this point, because you can do the exact same thing, is I'm going to go to my GitHub repository that I talked about here, and I'm just going to copy paste all of the stuff. So I'm going to just copy the raw file from here. Let me just exit this file. I'm going to edit my zshell.rc. I'm going to just delete everything from top to bottom, and I'm going to paste my config. Now, since on this system I don't have certain tools, and this might be relevant for you as well, I don't have pyenv here, I don't have direnv, I don't have autojump, so let's just remove that. Maybe I don't need all the aliases, but they don't really produce any problems. What else? Actually, rest doesn't really matter, so I can just write and quit. I can source the .zshell.rc file. And now what I want to do is I also want to go to my config files, and I want to go to my p10k zshell file. I'm going to copy and paste this too. So I'm going to open up my p10k zshell. I'm going to remove all of this. I'm going to paste all of this. And you can see it's quite long. Write and quit. And now I'm going to source the zshell.rc again. And you can see that we have now pretty much the same config that I had before. Not exactly, but, or is it exactly the same? Maybe it looks different in a container. But what I can do is I can explain to you briefly the most important things, because I do have now in the left prompt, I have enabled OS icon, user, directory, git status, and prompting characters. So essentially this is just what I showed you before. And on the right side, we have a bunch of things that are going to be triggered if necessary. So of course, if I, for example, maybe I can show you this in my local config. If I go, let's say, to my current directory, and here I, let's say, create a virtual environment. So python 3-m venv.venv. If I now activate this environment, it's going to recognize that. So I can go and say source venv bin activate. And now you can see I have a Python environment here. Same is going to happen for Anaconda. And combined, of course, with the Git icons and everything, this can become quite, I wouldn't say messy, but you can get a lot of information on screen. But yeah, so all of this is customizable. You can decide what you want to have on the right side. You can decide what you want to have on the left side. I don't want to make this video all about this theme, about this power level 10K theme, but you can see the cool thing about zshell and about My Zsh is you can add plugins. You can play around with all of that. Another one that I didn't cover yet is, of course, the syntax highlighting, because right now, did I close my container? No, this is my container. Look how similar it looks. Right now, you can see I don't have any syntax highlighting for my commands. So what I want to do now is I want to add the plugin. For this, yet another link in the description down below is going to be the zshell syntax highlighting. You basically go to the repository, you go to this install markdown file, and you can then scroll down to, where is it? Plugin manager. With a plugin manager, My Zsh, you copy this command, you run this command, and then what you do is you go into your zshell.rc. So this file again, and then you go to plugins, and in the plugins, you just add a space. So you say git space, and then zshell dash syntax highlighting, like this. Close, source the zshell config, clear, and now you can see if I type clear, it doesn't know it. If I type clear, it becomes green because it's a known command. And that's basically the setup. So you can take a look at the config and you can research stuff if you want to customize it further. But I think this is definitely a better experience for navigating prompts. It's just, if you want to do scripting, it's probably not the best because the bash language for shell scripting is superior. But just for playing around, for moving around your operating system and interacting with it and running stuff and navigating, I think this is much, much better. And I really like the customizability. I only have 2 plugins. There's probably much more you can do with that. Maybe in the future, I'm going to make a video about additional plugins if I choose to add some. But this is a tool every power user must have on their system. So that's it for this video today. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching, see you in the next video, and bye.